About 3 weeks ago, I killed one of my PCs during our weekly D&D session in a random encounter with a wildly unbalanced creature in the first round of combat. And it was arguably the best session we've had in the entire campaign. The players were in it the whole time. Let me back up to explain. I've been running a D&D campaign for about the past year that recontextualizes the encounters and adventure locations of Rime of the Frostmaiden into a different story with a novel subplot. The party is currently 4th level and have now really just begun to piece together that subplot, although I think the players have seen the writing on the wall for a minute now. We're playing in the game world that was created by one of the players, and I'm also using the Giphy Glyphs Darker Dungeons homebrew journey rules for random trail encounters. In this particular session, the PCs were traveling from a prison where they had finally gotten around to the task the party patron had officially sent them to the region for, somewhat late because the individual they'd been sent to talk to is now dead. They were heading south along a mountain ridge to investigate what they now know to be a nautiloid crash site. One of the PCs is a Thrykeen, so he's been getting hammered by the distress beacon for a couple days at this point. On the first evening, while sitting around the campfire, the players had a social encounter with their dog sled driver/guide. He asked them where they had acquired the magical giant dog sled, which was based on the swan boat Qual's feather token, that they had used to arrive at the prison 2 days prior. They told him it had been a gift from a member of his people that they found on the trail after a Remmerhaz attack and had nursed back to health. This event happened about 13 sessions ago, and we're going to come back to that here in just a minute. The following morning, they run into a random aggressive combat encounter on the trail. A pair of peritons are hunting them. I settled on this monster because it was a good fit for the mountains the PCs were passing, and frankly, I'd never seen them used in something like 30 years of gameplay. They've been part of the game since AD&D 1st edition. Narratively, they have a drive to consume the hearts of humanoid creatures, but looking at their stat blocks all the way back to the beginning, they've never been particularly dangerous. Man, that really changed in 5th edition and then got worse in 5.5, which we're currently playing. Of note, if the current version of a Periton reduces a character to 0 hit points, specifically with its Talon attack, it rips out the character's heart, not as another action, not as a bonus action, but as just simply a rider effect on the Talon attack. This is a CR2 creature, and I attack the PCs with a mated pair of them. According to the 2024 DMG, for a party of 5 4th level characters, this sits as a low difficulty encounter. I knew it was probably going to be a little harder than that because I took a moment to review the Periton tactics on themonstersknow.com. It's really important to remember that the heart rip out ability negates things like revivify or raise dead because the body isn't intact anymore. So this has pretty profound implications for the campaign if things go south. And here's where I'm going to let you in on my secret. I'm personally invested in the story my players are telling, and it creates a real dilemma. I'm generally a rules as written, let the dice fall where they may kind of game master, and my players seem to enjoy that. That being said, I don't feel great about a character death that doesn't serve the narrative well. To me, a character dying in a random trail encounter, just as they're starting to piece together the big plot that will drive the next 2 to 3 years of real-world gameplay, isn't narratively satisfying. Maybe I'm too invested in my own plot. In any event, I don't want any of these characters to die. I want to see them rise and defeat epic challenges. The players' portrayals and interactions have been so fun to watch that I'm concerned about changing the dynamic with a new character. So I developed a contingency plan, but I was going to run the encounter at full force. So back to the session. Our group normally will kite a single PC if a player has a conflict, but we call the session off if 2 players can't make it. This particular night, we were down 1 player and the second was running late, but they were coming. So the players elected to start without them. We're going to let them pick up when they got online. We worked through the campfire social encounter and then moved into the following day, where the combat encounter happened. I gave some cool Periton foreshadowing. There's shadows circling from overhead, and one PC noted that the shadows looked like the shadow of a woman as opposed to a bird, which connects to the creation myth of the monster. Then the creatures attack. Roll initiative. My melee fighter, whom I'd really tried to figure out how he'd be able to meaningfully impact the fight, because the Periton has a dive and flyby attack, he did what players do. He surprised me. I had forgotten he had acquired a harpoon, and with it, he managed to snag one of the Peritons, and now it's their turn. I rolled in the open to see who the Periton would attack. And of course, it comes up the Squishy Wizard. The first attack hits, a gore for 16 points of damage. Right about that time, our late player, the one playing the Squishy Wizard, hopped online, right as I rolled the Periton's claw attack. It hits. 8 more damage. 24 total. Hey, Greg, how many hit points does Gimble have? 22. And now I'm at 0. Here we go. Okay. So as this attack hits Gimble, the creature's talons sink deep into your chest, rip out your heart, and the creature begins to fly away. There was instant chaos at the table. Our most veteran player, who I think has somewhere around 40 plus years of gameplay over multiple editions and multiple games, had never encountered anything like this creature. No one other than me was expecting anything like that to happen. We continued initiative order and the party managed to bring down the escaping Paraton before it got away, and then finished off the one that our melee fighter had harpooned. Meanwhile, I'm having a messaging conversation back and forth with the Wizards player privately. To his credit, he's taking it all like a champ. I can only imagine the shock of showing up to a game in progress, getting settled into your chair as a monster is attacking your character, and boom, you're dead right there. This is where things got really good. The druid in the party, played by our veteran, runs over, grabs the wizard's heart, and spontaneously initiates something of a skill challenge to get the character back into the realm of the living. The melee fighter, which is an Aasimar, dumped his healing hands ability into the wizard's body. The Thrykeen is brought over to use his multiple arms to stabilize the wound as a help action, and the warlock does the same by blocking the wind. The druid gets to make his medicine check with advantage. And the roll is hot garbage. Then he burns 3 luck points. We're using that system from Tales of the Variant to re-roll this action and gets a 23. So narratively, he's gotten the heart reattached, but it's not beating. Gimble is dead. The whole time, Gimble's player is narrating his experience moving on from this world in the game chat with verve. So here's where I bring in my contingency plan. It's a little Deus Ex Machina. I get it. And maybe that makes me a bad DM. I don't care. It's a collaborative storytelling experience, and I personally am not ready for Gimble's story to end. This next bit allowed me to tie together some loose story threads and show the players that it's not just their daringly heroic actions that matter. The guides tell the PCs to load up onto the dog sleds. They have an option that might work. The party does so, and the druid describes how he keeps his hand inside Gimble's chest, essentially performing a cardiac massage to try to keep the body alive. The sleds turn upslope and begin this wild, careening journey into the mountains, eventually arriving at a tribal camp. The guides begin calling out to the camp in their language, and from one of the central tents emerges the very man that the party had helped 13 sessions back, dressed as a man of importance within the tribe. He begins giving orders. Tribal members come and grab Gimble's body and take it into a tent that is festooned with totemic relics. The party then collapses in the snow to wait. Drums, chanting, the pulse of magic in the air, rising to a crescendo, and then a sudden stillness. Then Gimble comes walking out of the tent, reincarnated into the body of a halfling. I killed one of my PCs in a combat with what looks like a wildly out-of-balance monster that no one at the table had ever seen used in a random, essentially meaningless encounter, and brought him back with a spell I've personally never seen used at the table in 30 plus years of gameplay. It was the best night of the campaign. Our resident Greybeard, the Druids player, said it was one of the most emotionally intense gaming experiences he had ever had. So the lesson is, go ahead and kill your PCs. It just may be the best session of your entire campaign. I'm Travis. I'm half the team at Interaction Games, and we're bringing out a new science fantasy TTRPG called Altered World. It's the game that lets you finally answer the question, what would I have to do to be able to call down a plague of frogs on a city of 700 million people? If you feel like checking it out, we've got links down in the description where you can pick up our free quick start, along with a link to our Discord where you can find out more and chat with us directly. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, keep your world altered.